Hello everyone, this is Vani from R.M.K College of Engineering and Technology. In this video, we are going to discuss about source encoding technique in information theory. So the objectives are to understand the importance of source encoding and to learn the importance by using Shannon-Fano code with example and to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of Shannon-Fano code. So what is source encoder? The symbols are generated out of the source, right? These symbols may contain redundant information. That redundant informations are removed by source coding technique. So if we see, we are going to learn about what is source encoder, why to remove redundancy, how to remove redundancy. So what is source encoding technique? The representation of data generated by the source of information. So the process where we are removing the redundant bits is called as source encoding, and the device which is doing it is called as source encoder. So why it is needed? Why the redundant bits have to be removed? So the parameters or the commodities which are involved in communication, power, bandwidth, time, all are very costly resources. So they need to be used efficiently. So in order to use them efficiently, we are removing the redundant bits so that the bandwidth, time and power are saved. So how source coding is done? The major part is the coding which we are using, whether it is Shannon-Fano coding and any other technique, the symbols are to be coded efficiently. So the objective of source coding is to represent information as accurately as possible using as number of few bits as possible so that the average length of the code is less and therefore better compression is achieved. So the redundant information from the source needs to be removed and which results into source compression coding after removing the redundant bits, and also the length of codes. The codes which are produced out of the coding technique are variable length codes. So the major types of coding techniques are Shannon-Fano coding technique and Huffman coding technique. So in this video, we are going to learn about Shannon-Fano coding. It is an entropy coding technique for lossless data compression. It assigns a code to each symbol based on their probabilities of occurrence. And as already told, it is a variable length encoding scheme. So the procedure to execute the Shannon-Fano coding technique: list the source symbols in order of decreasing probability. Whatever probabilities are given for symbols, we have to arrange them in decreasing order. Split the list into two parts that are as close to equiprobable as possible. When we are dividing, the probability difference between the two parts should be minimum. Assign the value 0 to the upper part and 1 to the lower part. In some of the books, it is given 1 to the upper part and 0 to the lower part, but majority of the textbooks are following this only. Repeat step 3 and 4 for each part until further partitioning is not possible. So let us understand this procedure with an example. Let us construct a Shannon-Fano code for the symbols S1, S2, S3, S4, S5 with probabilities of 0.4, 0.2, 0.2, 0.1 and 0.1, where we have to calculate entropy, efficiency and redundancy of the code. So as a first step, whatever symbols are given, we are arranging the probabilities in decreasing order: 0.4, 0.2, 0.2, 0.1 and 0.1. So next step, we have to divide the probability in such a way that the difference between the probabilities should be minimum. Here it is 0.6 and here it is 0.5. So I am assigning 0 to the upper part and 1 to the lower part. So again, in the next step, There are only two probabilities here, so let us divide them. When we are dividing them, again 0 is allotted to the upper part and 1 to the lower part. So when we are dividing the below portions, the 0.2 and 0.2 almost equal probability. 0 is allotted to the upper part, 1 is allotted to the lower part. Now if you see here, this partition is over, this is over, and now we are dividing this. There are two people here, so dividing here. So again allotting 0 to the upper part and 1 to the lower part. So now our probability that division splitting is over. Now we will assign codes based on the probabilities available here. Already we have assigned zeros and ones, so we will combine them. So what is the flow of S1 with probability 0.4? It is here with 0 and here with 0. So the code word for S1 is 0, 0. Similarly, we can do for other probabilities also. Let us see. So for S2, this 0.2 is having the code of 0 and 1. 0 and 1. S3 is having 1, 0. 1, 0. S4 is having 1, 1, 0. 1, 1, 0. Similarly, S5 is having 1, 1 and 1. So we have obtained code word for all the symbols. Now let us calculate entropy, efficiency, redundancy. The formulas are given as entropy. We know that for 5 symbols, I is equal to 0 to 4, pi log 1 by pi. Average code word length is probability and length of the code. Efficiency is h of s by L bar. Redundancy is 1 minus eta. Normally, efficiency and redundancy are calculated in percentage, so we can just multiply with 100 and calculate. Now, h of s, based on the length probability, we are calculating pi log of 1 by pi. You just apply the values which we have got already given. Probability is given, so you can just apply and get 2.12. And average code word length is pi li. For some code it is 2 bits, the length of the code is 2, and for some it is 3. So we are just assigning and substituting the value in the L bar, and we are getting the average length as 2.2. Efficiency is calculated by entropy by average length, and multiplying with 100 we can get in percentage. Redundancy is nothing but 1 minus eta, which we can calculate. That is 1 minus this value, it is coming 0.0364, which is 3.64. When we add this two, it will be 100%. Now, what are the advantages of Shannon-Fano coding? It is a procedure where we don't need to build the entire code book to obtain the code. We are just following the tag. So that is one of the advantages. It is entirely feasible to code sequence of length 20 or much more. Right? So these are the advantages of Shannon-Fano code. The disadvantages, there may be two different codes for the same symbol depending on the way of building tree. So when the same symbol are having two different codes, then we call it codes are not unique. They are not instantaneous code. So code might be a prefix for another code. In that case, if the code is not unique, the code might be a prefix for another code. So it is not guaranteeing optimal codes. That is the drawback of Shannon-Fano coding technique, but it is very simple. So as a summary, in this video, we have learned what is the need for source coding technique. We have learned one of the source coding techniques, which is Shannon-Fano code with example. Also, we have discussed advantages and disadvantages of Shannon-Fano coding technique. Thank you.